Hi everyone, welcome back to the best recapped movie. In the beginning, in Tropoje, Albania, a truck carrying several coffins moves towards a cemetery on top of a mountain. After praying at their graves, Murad Krasniki, the elder of the family, swears to the spirits of the dead in a speech that he will take revenge on the one who killed them and declares that they will not rest until his blood colors this soil. In Los Angeles, former CIA officer Brian Mills obsessively cleans his car at a car wash and goes to his ex-wife Lenore's house to visit his daughter Kim. Since Kim failed her driving test twice, Brian explains that he came to teach her, and Lenore says she is not home and lies that Kim changed her class. But she has never been a good liar, so she is forced to tell Brian that their daughter is with her boyfriend. Brian is shocked, and Lenore asks him to come in for a drink. Brian is surprised that his daughter hasn't told him about this, but Lenore assures him she's fine now. Then Brian asks Lenore about her condition, and she says she is not okay. Brian feels it's best to leave her alone. While leaving, she asks him to promise not to go to Kim and her boyfriend, and he says that he wants to give her some space and leaves. Kim and her boyfriend Jamie are also kissing, and it seems Kim is not ready yet, but Jamie says it's okay. On the other hand, her mother, Lenore, calls her several times to warn her about her father. Still, Kim doesn't notice the phone ringing. Brian somehow finds the address and knocks on the door until Jamie opens it. Without shaking hands to Jamie, he says that he came to see his daughter. Kim appears and is surprised to see her father. She gets upset about this, but Brian says he came to teach her how to drive. Dissatisfied with his father's behavior, Kim leaves the house, and on the way Brian explains that this is his last chance to teach her how to drive since he is going to Istanbul for a mission. She says that her mother didn't have Jamie's address, and she understands that he found their address from the GPS he used on her phone. At the end of the driving practice, Kim asks Brian to trust her in this case and asks him not to do this again. Then, they kiss each other and say goodbye. Immediately after, Brian calls his friend Sam and asks him to get information from Jamie. In Paris, Suko, Murad's right-hand man, after kidnapping Jean-Claude, tortures him to reveal information about his former colleague Brian, who used his card to infiltrate their group and kill them. Explaining that he killed his brothers and friends, Suko tortures him enough to extract information from him. Brian is waiting for his daughter to train him to drive again, but she is late, so he rushes to their house and knocks on the door. Lenore opens the door with tears. She explains that she is upset because Stuart, her husband, was supposed to take them on a trip to China to improve their relationship, but now he has cancelled everything. Feeling sorry for him, since Brian is traveling to Istanbul for a job trip, he asks Lenore to join him on this trip with Kim, and she says she's thinking about it. At night, Brian and his friends Sam, Casey and Bernie have a small party. His friend jokingly talks about his relationship with Lenore, which causes Brian to be embarrassed and says, "God, let's talk about basketball instead." After showing Brian's photo in Albania, Suko bribes an official to get information about Brian's location and ensures he is going to Istanbul. Brian receives his reward in Istanbul after completing his mission as a security guard for an Arab businessman. Then he calls Lenore, but she doesn't answer, so he leaves her a message. Suddenly, Lenore and Kim surprise him in the hotel lobby, and it becomes clear that Lenore got his address from Sam. Brian shows them the room and is happy to have them with him on this trip. At the same time, Murad and his men enter Turkey after crossing the border to find him. In his room, Brian puts his gun and security equipment in a baggage, then joins Lenore and Kim and asks them to go out for the night, but Lenore says she's tired, so Kim goes to a nightclub with her father. Afterward, they board a yacht, and he asks her about her relationship with Jamie and asks her if she loves him. Kim says she's not sure, not the way her mother, Lenore, talks about her love for Brian. The next morning, Murad and his men meet Suko at their residence, and he assures him that everything is ready. After settling in their abandoned residence, Murad calls one of his men who watching Brian in the hotel lobby, and orders him to let him go out since he is leaving. Brian is a little suspicious of them by focusing on him. Kim and Lenore join him in the lobby, and Kim decides to stay at the hotel and relax in the pool, and Brian and Lenore leave the hotel for patrolling. Another Mafia informs Murad that the girl is staying in the hotel. Still, he insists that he wants all three of them together. In the car, Lenore praises Brian's personality, saying he will get whatever he wants if he focuses on something. After talking, he realizes he is being chased by a car and asks Lenore not to look behind her. Without explaining the situation, he asks her to get out of the car like a shopper when they get to the store. After giving her directions, he asks her to take a taxi and return to the hotel. He says, "Get Kim and inform the hotel's guard security and ask them to put an agent to protect you and not open the door for anyone." Brian explains that the people following him might be looking to cause trouble, so he asks her to leave when they reach a crowded market. Lenore kisses him and tells him to take care before getting off. He immediately takes the driver's seat, runs away at speed, and calls Kim simultaneously. Still, Kim is in the pool and does not answer. In this case, the Mafia shoots at him, and finally, they can catch Brian's car. But when they check the car, they realize that he has run away. On the other hand, Lenore goes the wrong way and ends up in a dead end. The Mafia finds Brian, and after a fight and chase, they finally corner him, but he easily knocks them out with his fighting skills. Suddenly, while holding Lenore hostage, Suko asks him to surrender, and Brian immediately decides to call Kim again. Kim is on a video call with Jamie, and after seeing her father's call, she says goodbye to him and answers the phone. He immediately informs that he and her mother have been taken hostage. They will probably find her too, so he asks Kim to get out of where she is and tells her to hide in the closet of his room to be safe. Brian hangs up the phone, he surrenders himself and gets beaten up badly. They put them in a car to take them to the hideout. On the other hand, Kim comes out of the pool and immediately goes to her father's room, but she can't get in, so she decides to go through the window of her room. Run away by crossing the edge of the building, and in a difficult situation, Kim manages to enter her father's room and hide in the closet. One of them enters Brian's room, but as soon as he tries to open the closet door, there is a shooting. They have to kill the hotel's security guards, so the hotel's alarm goes off, and Kim is safe. At the same time, Brian and Lenore are transported by car to the place Murad orders while putting bags on their heads. Along the way, Brian tries to visualize the way in his mind by remembering the sounds around him and guessing about the car turning to the left and right lanes.
Hammer on metal.
Brian finds himself in an abandoned warehouse with his hands tied to a bar and realizes a guard is outside. He pulls out a small phone under his pants that he had already embedded and barely manages to pick it up. He calls Sam on this phone, but he doesn't answer. Then he calls Kim and asks her to go to the American embassy because she is safe there. Kim disagrees and insists that she has to do something for her parents' lives. She assures him that if he guides her, she can handle it. Brian accepts and asks her to take out the baggage in the closet, use the map, and use his shoelace to draw circles on the map with a diameter of 3 kilometers in the center of the hotel and markets. The circles do not intersect each other, so he asks Kim to throw a grenade into a safe area outside the window. Now, after hearing this sound and counting the seconds, he asks Kim to draw a circle with a diameter of 4.5 kilometers. This time, unlike before, the circles have 2 points of intersection. He informs Kim that one of these places is probably where they were taken hostage and asks her to go to this area. After hanging up, Kim takes a gun and 2 grenades with her on her father's advice and is forced to steal one's clothes. With great stress, she finally exits the hotel and quickly gets into a taxi. Murad enters the warehouse with Suko and his men, and Suko punches Brian hard. Then, Murad approaches him and shows him the photos of his men who were killed by him before. One of these photos is Marco, his son from Tropoye, who was killed by Brian and said that he came to take him to Tropoye to introduce him to them and take their revenge on him. Brian says that he killed his son because he kidnapped his daughter, but Murad says that he doesn't care. They take Lenore there, making a small cut on her neck, and hang her in such a way that the blood collects in her brain. Murad says that he has 30 minutes to watch Lenore die. He then horrifyingly confesses that he will take their daughter and send her to the worst prostitute in the house to rape her until there is only a piece of meat left from her that even the dogs won't eat. Then he comes out of there and tells his people they will return as soon as they get the girl. Brian asks Lenore to bear it and tries to free his hand. He finally manages to do this and immediately takes Lenore down. Still, she is unconscious from bleeding and unable to speak. At the same time, Kim gets out of the car without paying the taxi fare and runs until she reaches the roof of the area she reached on the map and waits for her father's call. Brian calls her again and asks her to detonate 2 grenades at short intervals. When the sounds are close, he creates white smoke through the chimney inside the warehouse so that Kim can find his original position. Kim sees the white smoke and quickly goes towards it, and Murad's people also go to check the surroundings after hearing the sounds of the explosion. She informs her father that she is near the chimney, and on the other side, she sees the Mafia approaching, so Brian asks her to drop the gun down the chimney and run away. Kim does so, and luckily Brian pulls out the gun and kills 2 of them before the guards notice. He tells Lenore that he will be back, and then he comes out and kills all the mobs one by breaking into the guards' hideout, leaving the abandoned warehouse, and going to the roof to save Kim. She is being chased by two people and has to jump from a height on her way. One of them fails to jump and falls. Still, the other continues to chase Kim and finally catches her. But before he can hurt her, Brian shoots him from behind. He hugs her while she is crying and tells her that Lenore is fine and safe. Brian steals a taxi with Kim and goes near that abandoned warehouse to save Lenore. Then, by tracking the American embassy in Istanbul on GPS, he asks Kim to leave here and go if there is an accident if he doesn't return in 5 minutes. He re-enters the warehouse to save his ex-wife, unaware that the mob is trying to get her out of this place, so he arrives a little late, and they take Lenore away in a van a little earlier. At the same time, Kim sees a police officer stop in front of the place. As soon as the 5 minutes are up, he sees her father coming out, and Brian is forced to kill the corrupt policeman who is talking to Murad. Murad informs his people that they escaped, and on the other hand, Kim and Brian are in a situation where they are being chased by police and Mafia, and a shootout happens between them. They are running towards the American embassy, and Brian manages to overturn one of the vans by shooting the driver. Another van is still chasing them when they approach the train tracks. Kim quickly passes the train, which leads to the collision of the van with the train and its explosion and overturning. Approaching the embassy, Brian asks Kim to enter without paying attention to the soldiers. After passing through the gate, they enter the outer area of the embassy building and stop there. Brian informs Sam of the incident and asks him to call his contacts at the embassy and ask them not to shoot. After this call, he tells Kim that mommy is not dead but has been kidnapped and promises her that he will come back and save her and make sure that these people don't bother them anymore. He says that everything will be fine and hugs Kim. Murad tries to hurt Lenore by saying he has to choose between you and your daughter. He says, "It turns out he left you like a dog," and Lenore replies that at least my daughter will be saved. Brian goes to where he and Lenore were taken hostage and starts walking towards the hiding place where Murad is in there. He remembers the sounds he remembered when passing by the van, such as the sound of the mosque, birds, the sound of the repair shop, and welding. By following the sounds, he tries to track down Murad. Murad orders Suko to torture Lenore, and he is going to do it with scissors. Brian comes to an alley where an older man is playing music. He remembers that he is getting close to where he wants to go. A little ahead, a dog barking catches his attention, and he is sure this is the place. He enters slowly and strangles the guard in front of the door, and after that, he kills the guards one by breaking into the hideout. Hearing the sound of gunshots, Murad orders Suko to take Lenore to the abandoned public bathroom, and at the same time, Brian fights to save Lenore. With his unique abilities, he succeeds in killing all the Mafia people. Hearing Lenore's voice, he follows her, and Murad and Suko leave the hiding place and take her to a bathroom inside the market. Brian follows them into the bathroom and goes downstairs, where he sees Lenore lying unconscious on the floor. Armed Suko appears before him, and they fight while pointing their weapons at each other. Obviously, it is not easy for Brian to kill him, so he enters into a hard and full fight with him, and in the end, it is Suk who beats Brian to his knees. Before being killed with a knife, he lifts him up with high alertness, knocks his head on the edge of the stone, and kills him. He picks up the gun that is on the floor, goes to Lenore, and tries to wake her up. Then, he calls Murad with the phone of one of the Mafia to reveal his location. He finds him and asks him that if he kills him, his family will come again for revenge? And he answers that they will definitely come after him. Brian says he'll kill them too, but explains that he can change that by going back and enjoying his life. Murad says that he can't forget the boy who was killed by him, and Brian replies that you have to deal with him like a family whose children are taken hostage. Finally, Murad promises to end this revenge. Still, when Brian drops the gun on the ground and leaves, he immediately picks up the gun to shoot. The gun is empty, and the bullets are in Brian's hand, so he kills him in a gruesome manner. After that, he goes to his ex-wife, informs her that Kim is safe, and hugs her. After all these events in Los Angeles, Brian attends Kim's driving test session to see her closely. Luckily, Kim finally passed the test, and Brian hugged her kindly. At the movie's end, Brian, along with Kim and Lenore, enjoy being together at a cafe by the beach. Still, when the waitress brings the order to the table, one of the desserts tastes strawberry, unlike the others, which are chocolate. Brian asks who this is for, and at this moment, Jamie reveals himself and joins the family with his and Lenore's consent. Kim jokingly tells his father not to shoot this one like the others. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel.